guys, it's Vandiezo, back on Craft by Vanguard deck profiles. If you guys enjoyed, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, So this time we're now covering the first deck of DZ Set 9 Super Brave Detonation or something along the lines of that, and that would be Sybilt. So Sybilt was the main antagonist of Season 2 for Divine Z's, my least favorite season of Divine Z's by a long shot, but I digress on that point. But Sybilt finally got a ride line revealed in this set, 9 sets after DZ started. So let's go ahead and get the start shot and see what we got, because honestly this deck is kind of pretty interesting to play. First up, we have our energy generator. So it is our ride deck crest. You might ride deck crest on your ride deck. Auto ride deck, when you would ride, put this card to your crest zone. If you win a second, you get to energy charge 3. Continue with 10 energy on to begin your ride phase, energy charge 3, and then act once per turn, energy blast 7, draw a card. On pretty solid, you get a free 3 energy every turn. Even with second, you get an extra 3 on top of that, and you can blast 7 of it all out at once to draw a card. There's only one card in this deck that actually uses energy, so you don't really have to worry about needing to save up energy for any particular skill too much. So whenever you do reach that 7 energy threshold, you can use it to draw. But if you have that one card in the deck in your hand that specifically requires energy, I would suggest using the energy on that card because it's pretty useful. On to our starter, we have Unison Dragon Sybilt. Grades will boost 5k shield, 6k base, auto, remove upon a second draw card, standard starter, and that's about free draw if you go second. He is so cute. I love this version of Sybilt so much because he's like a little baby dragon asking for a hug, and then he turns into, spoiler alert, this thing, and I'm just like, okay, well, he went from cute to ugly and horrifying in about 5 seconds flat. So sad, so sad. But anyways, Sybilt, one of those ride deck starter. Moving on to our triggers, we have our over trigger and Dragon Deity King of Resurgence Drag Veda. Grades will boost 50k shield, 5k over trigger. You remember over trigger in your deck, and revealed as a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one muse, give it plus 1 million for the turn. And if you revealed it during your drag check, activate its a dish effect, would you get to choose your vanguards and stand it. On pretty solid because whether you drag check or damage check this, someone gets a mill and you get a draw. But if you draw check this, you get to stand your vanguard, and your vanguard already has the ability to self-stand itself and get back drive checks, even though it does lose drive checks. So being able to get a possible third vanguard attack out of Drag Veda is pretty good. All around is a very powerful over trigger to have. You can run Volna for more rear guard consistent multi-attacking, or you could run Asphoria to give crit pressure to a vanguard that again is already restanding. But I prefer Drag Veda because multiple vanguard attacks can help beat down your opponent more, especially because just giving your vanguard extra crit pressure isn't going to matter if they already had 2 PGs ready to block the vanguard. So one of Drag Veda. Following that, we have our normal triggers, 3 copies of Blaze Maiden Parama. Grades will boost 15k shield, 4k base, front trigger exchange guard circle. Every opponent's vanguard is grade 3 grade at 5,000 to her shield. So she's a 20k shield once the opponent hits a grade 3. She's also a front trigger, so she gives 10k to your front row when she's checked. Honestly, I do like that offensive pressure and defensive pressure a lot because it helps keep your board alive if there's anything that is remaining on your board at the end of the turn, and it helps put pressure on your opponent during your attacking turn. You can choose to make this a draw trigger to help refill your hand, considering how often you're killing your own board and remaking it. But we have different ways of making the board, so I don't worry too much about the draw trigger, so I'd rather have the front trigger for the offense. Then we have a total of 8 crit, 4 being Rogue Beast Sunagosity. Grades will boost 50k shield, 5k base. You may have any crit you want. I chose to make it this crit because this is the quote-unquote canonical crit for Varga, and Sybilt possessed now, whose main grade 3 is Varga, so by default Sunagosari went to him, her, it, whatever Sybilt classifies as. And then 4 copies of Burning Flail Dragon. Grades will boost 50k shield, 4k base, critical trigger, auto rear guard, and then battle boosted, shove it to soul, choose a unit, give it 2k for the turn. So the free 2k in most situations doesn't make the difference, but it is a card that can go to soul, and one of our ways of remaking the board after Sybilt nukes it is using soul as a cost. So Burning Flail Dragon is here to help make sure that we always have access to soul, worst case scenario. So total of 8 crit for pressure, 3 fronts for additional power, and then obviously 4 heals and refreshing wind, dragon, Dino Breeze. Grades will boost 50k shield, 5k base, standard heal, and that's about it. You can make this any heal you want. I choose to make it Dino Breeze because it came out in the same set that Sunagosari came out, and I like to pair my heals and crits together. So if Sunagosari is here, Dino Breeze is here. As for our grade 1s, we start off with 4 copies of RPG and Guardian Monk of Raging Flames Monju. That automatically tells you, because the few times I do this seems to be the case, that the rest of the grade 1s are also all 4 of, so get ready for that. So grade 1 boost, 0 shield, 6k base, continuous sentinel for 4 sentinels and deck, and also put on guard circle. Choose one units, it cannot be hit in battle. If hands 2 more cards, and choose a card from hand and discard it. Standard PG, nothing to specify to that means if there's only 1 of cards on your hand plus on guard circle, you don't have to discard. It's great because that means you'll be super aggressive in the early game. Basically spam the ever living hell out of every single card you see here and bully your opponent to Kingdom Come. And then when your opponent does eventually counterattack you, throw down Manju, especially when you have low hand cards, give him the middle finger and you'll be good to go regardless of how many hand cards you have because of his skill. Honestly, very solid PG to have, keeps you defended even after going super aggressive and can be helpful regardless of when your opponent chooses to go on the counterattack. You can choose to run Elementaria Sanctitude. The reason why I don't do that is because I don't like running non-unit cards if I have a choice, because I'm the type of person that has and will call a PG to rear guard just for the sake of calling a PG to rear guard, because I think it'll make the difference, and most of the time it does, and you can't call Blitz Order. So 4 of Manju. On to 4 copies of our non-PG grade 1s. Stealth Fiend Shenri, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. So Shenri's in here because I originally tested her out for a Varga build, liked her in that, then I basically tried to shove Shenri into every deck possible because I really like playing Shenri, and she also has a wonderful red moon in the background, and I have very fun history with red moons in the background that I will eventually tell on a very later day basis when I have a video specifically describing stories from my childhood. Anyways, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, auto rear guard when she boosts anything. If your opponent either has 1 or less rear guard or you played in order this turn, yeah, more likely than not you're going to play the order route, but I mean, if it's in the early game or your opponent really just doesn't have rear guards, there you go. She'll get 5,000 power for the battle, and at the end of that battle, shove her to soul, draw a card. All in pretty solid because, again, whether your opponent has low rear guards or you just played in order, which is both very likely to have, she'll be a 13k swing or 13k booster, and then she'll be able to go into soul, so get you more soul for the vanguard's cost, and she'll end up getting you hand cards to replace her. All around, very solid grade 1 to have. I love having her in this deck, and she's an easy 4 of. Next up, we have 4 copies of Dragritter Kazim. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Auto when he becomes in the mental pollution state during your turn, so the special state that Sybilt gives access to all of the rear guards. Until end of the turn, this unit gets auto and retire from rear guard. You may put it to soul and 5,000 power. So again, more ways to soul charge just to make sure we have as many soul charges as possible. And not to mention that he's 13k base once he does become in the mental pollution state, and Sybilt gives everything in the mental pollution state even more power. So being able to be basically an 18k base once it's polluted is pretty solid. You can choose to make this any grade 1 you want because, again, we already have a lot of soul charges in here. He's mainly just here as an extra backup, but I do like having him in here for that backup reason, but also because once he is mentally polluted, he will always be an 18k regardless of what grade the opponent's vanguard's at. So 4 for me. Then we have 4 copies of Dragritter Shock. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. The card I will never be able to use properly. Auto back or rear guard once per turn. When your unit in the same column as it stands, if this unit is in the mental pollution state, stand this unit. So Sybilt can stand rear guards and itself. So this thing, if it's put behind vanguard, can stand itself. The downside is it has to be in the mental pollution state with it. And Sybilt can only stand used in the mental pollution state. And it gives power to a lot of things in the mental pollution state, but the point I'm trying to make here is that if you're trying to shack, you automatically have 1 card you must put in mental pollution state plus the unit that you're trying to stand. So shack, while all around is a very good grade 1, it does restrict you to the cards that you're trying to mentally pollute, but again, it's not a bad thing. It's just kind of annoying, but again, it can proc regardless of the vanguard stance or the rear guard stance as long as shack is directly behind it. So it's a solid 4 for me because it is a free restand ultimately. Moving on to our last grade 1 in the deck, 1 of in the ride deck and none in the main deck of Boy aspiring to join the Protector's Speedrod. That is such a really random name if you do not know the lore behind this card, and to be fair with you, I haven't read the lore behind Sybilt either because I don't think it's been posted yet, and I'm actively awaiting it because I want to know exactly what happened before Sybilt went from this into this, but whatever the hell. I'm just very curious, but I assume Protectors is something to do with people that, I don't know, protect people from dragons or evil or whatever the hell lives in Dragon Empire. Anyways, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Love his armor, love his sword, love how Speedrod looks. Auto placed by riding from a unit with Sybilt in his card name. Reveal a grade 3 card Sybilt in his card name from the ride deck, and then search your deck for 1 Speedrod and Sybilt, who he once were. Reveal it, put it to hand, and shuffle your deck. So essentially, when you ride this on top of the grade 0, reveal the grade 3, get yourself the really good order. So I like how the grade 2 of the ride line isn't required at all. So the grade 2 can technically be free reign, though unfortunately most of Dragon Empire ride lines, the grade 2 isn't free reign, but take that as you will. Either way though, being able to get the order for free is just great. The only downside is that order's a grade 2 order, so you're not proccing off till next turn, but A, it's a free search and deck things you by 1 card, so if you went second, it gives you the ability to check triggers more often by 1 card, which could make the difference overall. So 1 of in the ride deck is Speedrod, none in the main deck because you don't need it in the main deck. As for our grade 2s, we start off of course with our really good order, that's Speedrod searches. Speedrod and Sybilt, who we once were. Again, such a cute little image of Speedrod and Sybilt in their like non-corrupted days in front of a temple, and then the other grade 2 variant looks like this, and then Sybilt does that. So I don't know, but anyways, Speedrod and Sybilt, who we once were. Play this card for your vanguards, either Speedrod or Sybilt in the card name for literally no cost at all. Put this card into your soul, choose one of your vanguards, and it gets auto vanguard once per turn. When your unit without sentinel is retired from your rear guard circle other than during your main phase, put that card to your hand till end of turn. So basically, how I've been using this card is I've been using it in picking a rear guard to return to the hand. So basically, that rear guard art has to be on the board by the time I play the order. However, how it actually works is your vanguard gets the skill. So at the end of your turn, if your opponent has like seen a bunch of triggers or you know they have specific cards in hand, and one thing would be better to return to to your hand that's getting retired than another, you can just bounce that card instead of picking the card you technically would have picked at the start of the turn. So honestly, pretty solid. It gets you free soul and allows you to bounce stuff back when it dies. And then auto drop zone, when your grade 3 or greater unit with Sybilt in its card name stands by a card ability, regardless of who its ability it was, mind you, which would include the over trigger, just saying, you can bind this card and ditch one, and your Vanguard drive becomes 1 till end of turn. Now, of course, that's mainly supposed to be used with Sybilt's own skill, who brings his drive down to 0 to help increase his drive back to 1. It's only for the cost of binding and discarding itself, and it's soul blast fodder, because again, you want to put it into soul and then immediately soul blast it out so its skill becomes active. But if you're wondering why you do that when you flip the over trigger, if you're in the situation where you might deck out if your Vanguard does actually have twin drive, just use the order, drop your drive down to 1, therefore Sybilt only will do 1 drive check, and then when it stands again off its own ability, because say for example you pulled the over on the first drive check, you can then stand Sybilt with its skill, go down to 0 drive checks, and now you don't deck out. Just a niche way to get around that. Either way though, being able to give the Vanguard drive checks, regardless of what grade the opponent's Vanguard's at, is good. Not to mention the fact being able to guarantee return literally any single rear guard that's retired back into your hand, as long as it's not a PG, is great, including triggers, mind you, and it gets you soul for free. It's an amazing order. It's an easy 4-0. Following that, we have 3 copies of one of our ways to create board presence, and by one of our ways, I mean our main way to create board presence that isn't just hard calling from hand. Drag Ritter Latifah. Grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 10k base, auto place on rear guard circle other than by unit card's ability, so pretty much hard call her or call her via an order. If you play a normal order this turn, this thing, you can soul boss 1, check the top 5, choose to one card grade less than equal to your Vanguard from among them, call it to rear guard circle if it's a unit, put it to hand if it's a normal order, and shuffle your deck. So pretty much you can call Latifah off this ability. The only thing is that Latifah's skill is not going to proc off, but again, you're going to have plenty of soul with this deck anyway, so being able to get a rear guard out onto board just by playing an order that turn is pretty good, and that procs off regardless of what grade either player is at, and you literally only have one grade 3 in the deck, and that is Sybilt. So once you hit grade 2 and you play Speed Rod and Sybilt, odds are you can just Latifah straight away and you'll get at least one good rear guard out of it, or you'll hit a trigger, one of the two. And then auto rear guard, when this unit attacks a grade 3 or greater unit, this unit gets 5,000 power to end a battle for each of your opponent's open rear guard circle, same column as her. So the max she'll ever get is +10. Most of the time that'll happen on your Persona Ride turn, so she'll be a 30k swing. Maybe on your Sybilt Mental Pollution, if you choose to mentally pollute her, she'll be a 35k swing. Not a bad grade 2 at all. She hits for pretty decent numbers on your Persona Ride turn and okayish numbers everywhere else, so she's not mentally polluted. Not to mention the fact that she does get you rear guards for only 1 soul blast and can allow you to remake your board after you killed it via Sybilt, especially if your opponent puts you in a situation where you don't have many hand cards left. But we also don't want to see her too often because again, she's the only card in the deck that can actually do this, and because nothing else calls by abilities, it won't proc off her ability if she calls herself, so we don't want to see her too often, so we like to have her out of 3 of. As for our next grade 2s, 4 copies of Demonic Dragon Berserker Baki. Grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 10k base, auto drops, so when you play a normal order, if your Vanguard's Unison Dragon, counter boss 1, call to rear guard circle. So it's a way to get an extra grade 2 to board, which is pretty solid, and then continues rear guard circle during your turn. If your opponent's Vanguards are grade 3 or greater, or Unison Dragon units get 5,000 power. Then if this unit's in the mental pollution state, it also gets 5,000 power. So if your opponent's Vanguards are grade 3 or greater and you're on Sybilt and this thing is mentally polluted, it'll be a 20k base, 15 from its skill, 5k from Sybilt's skill. But then being able to give every Unison Dragon 5k is great, so you know Sybilt's an 18k base now. What's even more important than that is that if you choose to play this in Gryandra, because Gryandra tends to put more Unison Dragons on board than Sybilt does, you can make a full board of beat sticks with this, but I digress. Still, very good grade 2, can call itself back from drop zone, so again, if you're very low on rear guards and you have extra CB lying around, you can play Baki, especially because it procs when you play normal orders, so that same turn you can play Latifah as well. And again, for free, it gives the Vanguard 5k, and bare minimum, it can possibly even give itself 5k if it's in the mental pollution state, so it's a very solid 4 of. You don't use the drop zone skill too much, but the extra 5k power to board skill, that's pretty used often. As for 4 copies of our next grade 2, that is Desolate Flare Dragon. Grade 2 intercept, 5k shield, 10k base. Technically, it has no skills, but its continuous skill is if you have a Unison Dragon Vanguard, it gets all the following, so the following skills will be active the second you hit Sybilt. Auto place on rear guard circle, CB1, check the top 7, and choose up to 1 Unison Dragon or up to 1 normal order without Regalia's piece from among them. Reveal it, put it to hand, and shuffle your deck. If you do not reveal a card, you draw a card. So either get yourself a Persona Ride, or get yourself the order, or just shuffle the deck and draw. Cool. Then auto rear guard, when it attacks into anything, this unit gets 5,000 power for the battle. So simply put, regardless of what grade it's attacking into, regardless of what unit it's attacking into, whether it's a Vanguard or rear guard, simply put, give it 5k. Cool, solid. But then if you want to, you can energy blast 3, then choose every rear guards, and it gets auto when this unit is retired from rear guard circle, put it into your hand till end of turn. So say for example, you mentally polluted a Latifa and you want to bounce her back, but you also have another unit you mentally polluted. Let's say it was a Kazim, but you don't want it to go to Soul. Actually no, let's say it was Shock. Then what you can do is you can use Desolate Flare Dragon, you play that order that turn. Desolate Flare Dragon, energy blast 3, pick the Latifa, so when she dies this turn she'll get bounced back to hand. And then what ends up happening, end of turn, Latifa gets bounced back via Desolate Flare's ability, and then thanks to Speed Rod and Sybilt, you can bounce back Shock, so you can get 2 cards back to hand for the price of 1. And this card is one of the things you're mentally polluted. You can end up multi-attacking with it and then choose everything else that's mentally polluted and bounce them back to hand, and then use the order to bounce back itself. All around, very solid grade 2, allows you to recycle hand and board presence, gets really good numbers for literally no cost whatsoever, and it gets you a free search / a draw, so it's an easy 4 for me. As for our last grade 2 in the deck, one of them in the right deck, none in the main deck of Distorted Heart Speed Rod. Grade 2 units at 5k shield, 10k base. Auto Vanguard when he attacks into anything, retire any rear guard, and then reveal a grade 3 card Sybilt's card from the right deck. Draw a card, gets 5,000 power for the battle. So it's a 15k swing, so your opponent can't just easily 15k guard it for an over to pass or 2 to pass, because now it's just a 1 to pass. If you put an 8k behind it, 23k, which is nice. And again, to get you a draw to help replace the rear guard, and you can play the grade 2 order that turn, so the card you kill just goes back to hand immediately. Honestly, not a bad grade 2 at all. Get you hand cards, get you power, allows you to pressure out your opponent a little bit on grade 2 turn. Nice one of in the right deck. And as for our last card in the deck, we have 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the right deck of our main grade 3 Malwarm Sybilt. Grade 3 Twin Giant, Persona Rider, 13k base, Act Vanguard once per turn, Soul Blast 1, choose up to the same number of rear guards as the number of your opponent's Vanguard's grade. Until end of turn, they all become the mental pollution state, and they get auto rear guard at the end of the turn retired with this unit, and they also get 5,000 power. So for 1 Soul Blast, bare minimum, you're going to ride this when your opponent's at grade 2 if you went first. So for 1 Soul Blast, you can pick 2 rear guards. They'll become mentally polluted state. They can stand via this thing's ability, which we'll go over in a second, and at the end of the turn, they'll die, and in exchange, they'll also get an extra 5k power on top of it. And for their grade 3, you pick 3 units. Then if grade 4, 4 units, you get the point. Then auto Vanguard, once per turn, at the end of battle, this unit attacked into a Vanguard. By counterblasting 1, choose one of your rear guards in the mental pollution state, or one of your Vanguards, stand it until end of turn. Its drive becomes 0, so if it can do rear guard drive checks, there you go. And also, it just counts itself, and it gives plus 10,000 power. So for 1 CB, regardless of a grade the opponent's Vanguard's at, something stands, it gets an extra 10k, and if it was a rear guard, it got an extra 5k because, mentally polluted state. But if your opponent's Vanguard's a grade 3 grade, you choose a total of 2 instead of 1. So pretty much every turn you want to be standing Sybilt for that additional pressure, because he'll probably have more numbers. But again, if you want to, you can mentally pollute 3 units at once. If your opponent's Vanguard's at grade 3, pick Desolate Flare Dragon, and then 2 Shock units, 1 behind the Vanguard, 1 behind Desolate, and then Desolate himself. Play the order, and then what you can do is swing with the Desolate column, then you swing with the Sybilt column. Sybilt column stands Desolate and itself, then both Shocks stand in the back row, and Desolate picks one of the Shocks via its skill. Then you swing with Desolate column again, or the Vanguard column again, then you swing with whatever one didn't swing yet, and then Desolate Flare chooses the other Shock it didn't pick the first time to return to hand. End of the turn, all 3 die. Sybilt then bounces back the Desolate Flare Dragon via the order skill, and then the 2 Shocks bounce back to hand via the 2 Desolate Dragon usages, so pretty solid there. And then finally, auto Vanguard once per turn. When a rear guard in the mental pollution state is retired during your end phase, you may draw a card, or not may draw a card, you have to draw a card. So it's a way to get hand cards back to replace the units that were retired, and again, if you do the combo I just explained, you basically get a total of 4 cards back, which is pretty solid because it empties out your board so your opponent can't do some control shenanigans against you like Artisaria with the locking, and then still being able to recycle your hand and then call back and being aggressive on the next turn without losing out on too much defensive power. All around, very solid grade 3. His first use abilities are super aggressive because he puts stuff in a state and then gives them a free 5k for only 1 Soul Blast. His second skill, regardless of as the opponent's Vanguard's grade, as long as he swung into a Vanguard, can get you multi-attack for only 1 CB and power up the unit that he stood with plus 10k, and possibly even allows you to attack at 2 extra times if your opponent's Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater. And on top of that, at the end of the turn, he ends up getting you more hand cards to replace the units that were retired, who possibly even go to hand via either the order or other card skill. Honestly, not a bad grade 3 at all. Love his skill a lot. Super aggressive and very good with consistency wise. So 3 in the main deck, 1 in the right deck of Sybilt. And that's it for this one. I hope all of you guys enjoyed. Honestly, this deck is very fun to play. You're super aggressive from the get-go. The second you can start attacking, you attack. You can retire your own rear guards, get them back into your hand, and draw a bunch of cards. Really, in my opinion, the only thing Sybilt's really missing is maybe something like an Eden from Bruce, where we just have a card that inherently has crit pressure, because the deck already has multi-attack pressure, and it already has pretty good number-wise. I think it just needs inherent crit pressure or guard restrict. Personally, I would say crit pressure, but either or would work, and I think Sybilt would be a very good contender for a better deck. So either way, though, that's it for this one. Hope all of you guys enjoyed. If you're interested in testing out Sybilt, I definitely recommend you test out this deck because it's very fun to play. So I will see you all in the next one. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join us for Twitch, and don't forget to to set up your vanguards.